What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Film Room. Today we're going to be talking about the defense's most recent outing against the New York Giants and how this defense is starting to improve ever so slightly in a year where there has been little to be positive about on the defensive side of the ball. Before we get into the film, of course, I have to talk about the loss of Dak Prescott. Really just one of the more emotional and heartbreaking moments I've had as a fan of this team. Dak always seemed like this indestructible fortress, and to see him go down and get hurt in such a fashion was just really gut-wrenching. Just really hoping that Dak can have a speedy recovery and get himself back to 100%, not only physically, but mentally as well. Dak Prescott is the heartbeat of this team, and I hope as a fan of Dak's and this football team that we get him the money he deserves this offseason in a long-term deal. With that being said, I strongly disagree with takes from the likes of Booger McFarland and Tony Dungy that the defense and the team as a whole will somehow benefit from Andy Dalton being under center. I don't necessarily think that running the ball more will equate to keeping this defense off the field longer. This is not the 2016 Cowboys where they had an offensive line that was built to grind the ball down the field and run the ball down opposing defenses' throats. I just do not see this 2020 Cowboys offense, regardless of who's under center, being able to drive and grind the ball down the field on the ground. I'll gladly take quick strike, big play, touchdown drives over grindy drives that will more times than not, in my opinion, result in 3-and-outs and punts than they will touchdowns. I will support and root for Andy Dalton, of course, but I'm not going to sit here and act like this team somehow gets better with the loss of their franchise quarterback. With all this being said, I think there is now a lot more pressure on the defense not to give up so many points. Without Dak, I just don't see this offense putting up the 30-plus points per game that they were putting up. So if the defense continues to let up 30-plus points per game, then we clearly do not have a winning recipe here. This week, though, and for once this season, although it was against the Giants, I did see some pretty significant improvement in this defense, and this was largely due to the efforts of DeMarcus Lawrence, Aldon Smith, and Jalen Smith. Starting with DeMarcus Lawrence, he not only looked like our $21 million D-end in terms of defending the rush like he usually does, but also in applying pressure on the QB. D-Law racked up 9 pressures in a strip sack in Sunday's win, consistently getting past Giants rookie Andrew Thomas with ease. Thomas had a rough day protecting Daniel Jones, also giving up multiple pressures to Aldon Smith, who finished the day with 9 pressures as well, and helped D-Law account for the 60% pressure rate on Daniel Jones' dropbacks. That was 9% higher than any other teams in the league during Week 5. The defense only recorded 2 sacks on the day, but they were at least showing the ability to get there. Just need to find a way to finish more, which I think will start to come if the pressures keep up, and with Aldon and D-Law, I really think they will. Building on that, with how flat-out awful Everson Griffen has been in rushing the passer and setting the edge against the run, it will be nice to see Randy Gregory return to take over Griffen's snaps. I feel like Gregory is similar to Aldon in that he can just hop on the field and be productive. I'm hoping once he returns against Washington in Week 7 that we will have at least 2 of the 3 on the field at all times, and speaking on D-Law, Aldon, and Randy. There's just a fall-off in production, and a significant one at that, when D-Law and Aldon are not on the field and we are left to rely on Dorrance Armstrong, Tyrone Crawford, Everson Griffen to apply pressure. All have been very unproductive in doing so, and no, I'm not counting either of Everson's coverage sacks. One last point, speaking on the defensive line, especially edge rushers, get Bradley Anae on the field. It really can't hurt at this point, and he recorded a QB hit in his 1 defensive snap, so yeah, get Bradley Anae on the field more. Moving on to Jalen Smith, I have been very hard on Jalen this season when looking at what he's put on film. There just seemed to be a complete lack of effort and physicality, to be honest, out of Jalen so far this season, and it really stood out like a sore thumb, especially so against the Browns. This was just not the case against the Giants, however. Jalen, much like Aldon and D-Law, was all over the field on Sunday, and the difference was more than noticeable. Much like how he stood out like a sore thumb against the Browns, he stood out in a much different manner against the Giants. Jalen was doing everything from stuffing screens to getting pressures on his blitzes. He recorded 14 total tackles as well as a half sack on Sunday, and avoided any bonehead penalties like his meaningless face mask he had against the Browns. For once this season, Jalen did not look completely lost in the field and was often in the right place at the right time. I don't know if it's because he was going against a Jason Garrett offense and maybe felt more comfortable and perhaps even familiar with some of the looks he was given, but I'm not going to use that to discredit Jalen because he had a really good game in Sunday's win. I don't know if this type of play, will be consistent out of Jalen, but I am going to have to expect this out of him from here on out. Jalen finally gave us some good film to look at, and he needs to keep this up for this defense to give this team a chance at racking up some wins. Some other quick notes on the defense. I thought this secondary did a solid job this week, not allowing much over the top. There was that deep Darius Slayton reception, but other than that, nothing that was super game-breaking. Safeties did a good job keeping everything underneath. I do think the return of Anthony Brown definitely helped this week. All in all, I think this defense will continue to improve from this point on, and especially so with the return of Cheeto, Leighton, and Randy Gregory, hopefully all in Week 7 or sooner, in the case of Cheeto or Leighton. Still not thrilled, of course, but taking away the 14 points that came off a pick six and a first play of the drive fumble, it was a pretty solid outing for this Dallas defense. I know it was against a league-worst Giants offense, but now there at least seems to be a foundation to build on. Well, I appreciate you guys stopping by and staying until the end. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and subscribe and comment below how you think this Cowboys team will fare with Andy Dalton under center. Also, feel free to check out our website at cowboysfilmroom.com. We post weekly articles on there taking a look back and a look forwards at all Cowboys games throughout the season. Lastly, give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter. We post anything on there, Cowboys highlights, Cowboys news, game film analysis, just really anything talking Cowboys football. Once again, thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you guys on the next video.